Tonight, nurses in Texas are calling for nursing to be considered a professional degree. It comes amid changes to federal student loan programs set to.
Wait, I'm sorry. Before this conversation begins, is it me or does this guy look like fucking Scott Disick? Okay, sorry.
Take effect next year. Kevin Reese spoke to the Texas Nurses Association about those impacts and the response from the Department of Education.
At the height of the COVID pandemic, this was the frenzy at Parkland Hospital. Doctors and nurses scrambling to save lives in a packed COVID ward.
We first heard about this, we were disappointed.
A disappointment the president of the American Nurses Association shares with her fellow nurses. The recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill caps federal student loans at $100,000 for graduate degrees, $200,000 for professional degrees. Nursing, even in a packed COVID ward, is not considered a professional degree.
Because it's not. Let me tell you this. It's the year 2025, and they're barely now telling you what people like myself and Hocus for Fifth, and only not that many, a couple of dozen others, were screaming at you every day since March 15th of 2020. We kind of figured it out by April that there was no virus and that this whole thing was a scam to scare you into accepting an injection of something of unknown origin that was experimental, that was not something that you should be injecting into your body. They had to get it pushed through all of they had to get it past being screened and the safety testing and all. They were able to manipulate you into begging for something that wasn't there. So they're coming out now and they're saying that there was no pandemic. So how did those people in the hospitals, and only the hospitals, well, how'd they die? That, my friend, is why those people, those nurses, were screaming, pissed off at Joe Biden, because he stabbed them in the back. See, the thing was this. The agreement was, if you kept your mouth closed during the scamdemic and you just followed orders, and no one knew how to properly calibrate those ventilators. So one nurse would have it on one setting. When she gets off, another nurse would come in, change the settings, blow the patient's lungs out. Then when they die, they would put down COVID. See, there were no witnesses. I mean, family members allowed in those hospitals at those times. So really, if a janitor just walked into the hospital room and put a pillow over your relative's face, they would just put down he died of COVID. You would not know. And we're in the age of Zoom. A webcam could have went into every family member's hospital room, and your family members could have spoke to you via webcam, and they could have been live footage of them being in the hospital. Since people weren't allowed in, for transparency, they could have put webcams in the room so that you could have spoke to your relatives and you could have known what happened to them. But then when some stranger calls you and tells you your family member died of COVID, what does COVID death even look like? What does glitter come out of your ass? The sprinkles come out of your nose? And that way you're like, wait a minute, it wasn't this, because I saw the glitter, right? So that's how you know there was. What are you talking about? To this day, these are questions that no one ever answered. So the nurses were upset because they said, we played the game. We sold the public on this fake virus. We let all these people die. We killed all these people on purpose. You were supposed to forgive our student loans. And Biden said, yeah, about that. You guys are murderous criminals pretending to be professionals. I'm not giving you shit. You killed a bunch of Americans because the globalist agenda called for it. He disrespected them. He had no respect for them or for their fraudulent profession. See, we used to hold doctors and nurses in high esteem. Then we found out that they don't really know or do anything. See, in the United States, the number one cause of death in America is cancer. The second leading cause of death is I believe, heart attack, the third leading cause of death in the country is medical malpractice. That means somebody in the hospital fucked you. They fucked you up because they don't know what they're doing. They're practicing on you, pretending to be professionals, but they're not. You don't know the agenda of the people that work in these places. I remember all these animals doing dance routines, and I'm still trying to figure out who the fuck was doing their coordinator, who was their dance coordinator, who was their instructor, who was going around to different hospitals teaching them all these aerodynamic, amazing moves to do while people are laying in those beds. I remember one of the first times they kicked me off of social media, there was a hospital down the street from me, and I lived in downtown LA. I knew this was all fake because I lived next to Skid Row. All the homeless people are doing just fine. And I'm like, well, if the homeless aren't dying, then who is? Because they're the most exposed. I mean, they're eating tacos with cat feces on their fingers. And I was like, if the cat feces isn't going to kill you, then why? Then how's the air going to kill you? Matter of fact, is the air going to kill you? And I live in downtown LA. What if I'm driving down the street and a homeless man just walked through the street and he coughs and I drive through the cough and then it sucks into my ventilation system and into my face? Then what? Am I going to just crash? And then they were just, oh yeah, there's a refrigerator trucks full of bodies. Where? So I'm driving around all the homeless people and they're like, yeah, it's been kind of slow around here. Where you guys all at? I'm like, I guess we're in the house. They're like, oh, because they don't have TVs. So they were just hanging around LA while everyone is in the house. I knew it was fake and I didn't believe any of it. So I would just ride a scooter. And I have all the videos. Actually, on the 16th of March, I had a video that had like 500 million views worldwide. It was of a woman that was sprinting, an Asian woman, and she had like a dog in her mouth, and she was naked, and she was running. And I was like, holy, you can see me. I'm in my Tesla driving down, I think, 5th Street in downtown LA. And I pull up on her, and she's sprinting naked with like an animal in her mouth. And we were like, is this what's about to happen? It's about to be a zombie apocalypse. Like, you got to think about it. We don't know what's going on. The nurses sold us the lie. My friend, this girl, me and her were dating. She's bad as hell too. She was fine as shit. And she was a traveling nurse. She came to me and she told me, yeah, it's fake. And I was like, so what are you going to do? She was like, I'm going to still get paid. My other friends that were nurses, none of them took the shot. None of them. Now the ones I know in Canada, the doctors that took it, they're all dead now. Copeland, they used to argue with me on Clubhouse. How's he doing nowadays? What's his health status? Matter of fact, everybody who used to argue with me for years about, because they would connect the vaccine to Trump magically. Trump was already out of office when the injection started, but they kept bringing him into the argument. And I saved as many people as I could. I talked to so many people off the edge. I do fairly well. So if you were a friend of mine and they threatened to fire you, I would tell you to let them fire you. Whatever you make per week, I'll pay you until I can find you another gig if they fire you for refusing the jab. Now, I already knew that's illegal. It's unconstitutional. But you got to understand, a lot of the people that live in this country, they think they live in a multicultural democracy. They don't believe that they live in a constitutional republic. So if you won't stand for the Constitution, you're not going to believe it stands for you. Now, myself being a patriot, I knew I had constitutional protections and nobody could force me to do anything. So before, when they announced the vaccine passports in LA, in California, and they announced all this other weird shit, I made the decision to evacuate. I evacuated California, and I've never moved back since. I instructed other people to let them fire you. If you come to me for money, I'll help you pay your bills, so I'll get you another job. And I gave people all the information. And they kicked me off of social media because I would just read the data. I would read the reports. They were in California, they were injecting people in 2020 by the end of the year. The experiments and all, they didn't even wait. It was already pre-made. You know, if you think about it, to synthesize billions of doses of anything would take years. You don't make enough of a certain compound in a you don't just stir it in a pot. You know, even if you had facilities all over the world making this solution, this injection, whatever goes in those vials, it would take years to develop 1 billion, let alone to have 8 billion doses on standby, ready to transport. Get the fuck out of here. And then one size fits all, right? Doesn't matter if there's any harmful drug interactions. You can't even take a high blood pressure pill with a Viagra most of the time, but because of harmful drug interaction. But yet this thing was just like some magic solution. No, and nobody just questioned anything. Because people who you would trust, like the doctors and the nurses, you found out they were compromised. See, Fauci's group, the NIH, they used to fund all of these medical institutions. And they actually wrote the curriculum for these medical schools. And if you didn't do exactly what they told you to do, they'll take away your funding. So you had to say what they told you to say. That means you're compromised. That means you're not a professional. You're not putting the needs of the patient above the needs of the institution. You were putting the institution first. You were putting the business first. You didn't care about the patient. You were instructed to let people die and then to pretend and then just write it off. Write it off as being related to the virus that didn't exist. Still doesn't exist. I see people trying to hold on to it, though. They wear their masks still. Pathetic. But it's just hilarious that years later, since all this has been exposed in the scamdemic, you find out these nurses aren't really professional. They're just robots. Is a robot a professional? If I tell the robot to inject somebody with some kind of compound, if I tell them to inject you with, with Ajax, put some water in some Ajax and inject it into the patient. If the robot does the injection and doesn't care that it's a poison, does that make the robot a professional? No. But if a human does it, how's that person a professional? What makes somebody a professional nurse? You take orders from the top down. Until the scamdemic started, none of us even realized how hospitals work. We didn't know about that these things were even possible. We had no clue. Oh yeah, back to the story. I was me and my girlfriend at the time, they said that there's a hospital down the street from me was overflowing with patients. I see it on the news on Channel 4. And I'm in LA and I'm like, what? That hospital I drove by like 2 days ago. So I pull up, I tell her, get in the car. And I pull up to the hospital, I make a video. And the lady comes out and she's like wearing like a spacesuit. She walks over to my car and I'm like, hey, my girlfriend twisted her ankle. Is the hospital waiting room full? Is the hospital overflowing right now? And she was like, no, it's pretty slow today. 15 minutes prior on the news, I'm watching how they're saying that people are fucking falling out of the windows because the hospitals are just over flooded and overran with patients. And lies from the depths of hell. So I started doing this series where I would go to different hospitals and record that there's nobody outside. There's no waiting list. And then I would go into the the lobby, to the waiting room. 2-3 people there. It's like a regular day. Slow, actually, if anything. They were lying to you to scare you. But this is in 2020 before they even announced that they had the injection ready for you. They were grooming you. They were prepping you for a bigger play. These nurses knew and they didn't blow. Only a couple blew the whistle. There was one nurse, she worked, the ones that work at the black hospitals in the hoods, they worked in Queens, they worked in the projects, like those hospitals. Oh yeah, they were just wiping the blacks. They're just wiping them. There's one nurse, they used to have her videos on YouTube. She'd have a hidden camera and she'd be arguing with the other nurses who were killing patients in front of her. She'd be arguing with them. She does one thing, they do another. By the time she comes back the next day, the patient is gone. Because they were given instruction, do this, do that. Those ventilators, remember they were screaming, we need the ventilators, we need to ventilate what? You know what ventilators historically were for? If you were in a bad motorcycle accident and they wanted to keep your body warm so that your family could come and say goodbye, to a warm body that was still breathing, technically. They used that to just keep you alive for that long. It wasn't because you were having trouble breathing. There's oxygen tanks, there's breathing treatments, there's all kind of other things you could have done besides put somebody in a medically induced coma using fentanyl and then to intubate them. And these scumbag trash nurses doing all their Michael Jackson Thriller choreography and dancing fucking sold you on it and wiped out your family members. And you never went up there looking for revenge. You didn't go up there. I had one friend, my boy J-Land. His mother was trapped in one of these hospitals and they were going to wipe her. They were going to liquidate his mother. They were never going to let her leave that hospital alive. He went in there like a fucking animal, a beast, and he rescued his mother. He pulled her out that goddamn hospital where all the other senior citizens on her floor died. She was the only one that survived. Did they ever criminally come after him? They couldn't. See, they knew everything they were doing was wrong. When the state of California came after me and tried to shut down my businesses, and I was like, for what? Like, you're not a king. You don't just by decree say I have to close my business. Gavin Newsom didn't give me the money to open. So who is he to tell me I have to close? Everything they were doing was illegal. And all it took was just a little bit of pushback and they folded. But everybody was so scared. So scared. And these nurses helped push the fear. The doctors were afraid too. The few doctors that did try to give their patients, ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, they saved hundreds of thousands of Americans. The frontline nurses, frontline doctors of America. He's actually the Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, formerly of, I believe, UCLA. And then there was Dr. Simone Gold, and there was another, a black woman from, I believe she's from West Africa, Stella Emanuel. There was a bunch of those doctors, and I remember watching them live on the steps of the Capitol, literally speaking to the public like, hey, what they're doing is wrong. They are lying to you. Don't believe it. But people were demanding the drugs. Give me drugs. Trump even came. People forget that Trump was there. Remember when Trump went up to the White House and he ripped his mask off after they were telling he's going to die of COVID? And Trump went up there like a G and took the mask off in front of everybody up on the podium in the White House. Straight hero shit, movie stuff right there. I was there. I watched it all happen and I kept detailed records. I remember all of this. They tried to offer you everything else holistic. You didn't have to take the shot. The beautiful thing is the majority of people that took the shot are all Democrats, specifically the black ones. I don't know if you've been keeping score, but the 13% is really the 10% now. Millions of them are gone from the shot. I have black friends back in California where they've all lost 9, 10 family members all in the same month. Half my family's black in California. The men who took it are gone. My uncles, cousins. See, if this is a war weapon, the bigger and darker you are, the stronger you are, the faster it knocks you down. Apparently, it's testosterone reactive. That's why women seem to last longer unless they're really dark-skinned. And I shared the data where there's a connection, there's a correlation between pigmentation and testosterone. That's why you see those really aggressive women are typically darker in the videos. We all watch the body cam footage. You can't even call racism is gone. That body cam footage means there's no such thing as being racist no more. It's called reality. If you want to associate racism with reality, then that says something about you. It's not nothing about us because we're perceiving reality. We're seeing it. It's all connected. And I'm telling you now, that's what's in the Epstein files. I told you shouldn't. You should have just waited 3 more years before you demanded them, because you're going to find out that the biggest thing that Epstein was doing was just the eugenics program and then the protections around it. That's why you needed the politicians. What everybody seems to forget about is the thousands of scientists he had employed, that worked at MIT, that worked at the labs on his island. It's not about the white kids that they were having sex with. It's about all the black ones from the earthquake in Haiti and from the Caribbean, the Virgin Islands, that were all the orphans that were trafficked to the island for experimentation so they could develop a bioweapon that would specifically target people that look like them. And I don't know if you've been keeping track, but all your favorite black athletes and celebrities and everybody who you think is black and great that's been all of a sudden dying suddenly, that means that his research was successful. Problem is, it's just not working as fast as they thought it would. So that's why Fauci's out of the public eye, because technically he failed. Because we should not be having these conversations. The mass die-off was supposed to happen over a year ago, and it hasn't. It's going to take a few more years, probably by 2030. But I don't understand why, knowing that you have a ticking time bomb in your body that can't be diffused, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to go crazy? Are you going to burn stuff down? How's that going to help you? We don't know what's going to happen. And all they're going to do is blame Trump and Warp Speed, saying that he funded the eugenicist program to kill off all the black people. He's a racist, he's a Nazi, blah, blah, blah. We have so much going on in the country. We don't necessarily need that right now. But listen, if you're watching this video, when you go read those Epstein files tomorrow, you're going to start to notice that there was a eugenicist program and there was experimentation. And the politicians were to help cover it up, but also to get this thing approved for injection without going through the typical measures. Instead of waiting 15 years to get approved, 3 months? And then you can just play around with the wording of the name and get partially approved, or you could trick people into thinking it was approved, but it was really just the name was approved, but not the injection. It was so much. It just took a lot of mental gymnastics. You just had to keep your wits and know better. I never even took the test. Never took the shot. None of it made sense. Why would you need to test for something that's deadly? Wouldn't that just be dead? People called me all kind of names, grandmother killer. I was like, look, if I got to donate my body to experiments, if I got to donate my body to science while I'm still alive so that your grandmother can live, then you better kiss Gary and Gam goodbye. Because fuck that. That doesn't make any sense. But I guess people like me are a problem. I'm problematic. So they had to kick me off the internet. Now that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is on, they got to leave me alone. I'm just parroting what he was telling you 2020. Him and Dale Bigtree, my hero. This is not a profession. A CNA, an RN, pretty much the same thing. They sold you a bed of lies. They'll tell you whatever they're told to tell you. That's not a professional. There's no critical thinking involved. They just follow orders. Again, can a robot be considered a professional anything? No.
And 20 years ago, I spent $100,000 in loans to get my nursing education. So that's just not going to work in today's times.
I mean, look at her. She's proof. It's all about, it's about the money. Trump's not he gets it. You know, he remembers. They're greasing. There's just women pretending to be nurses, manipulating the public. They all wanted their student loans forgiven for keeping their mouths closed. Not going to happen.
Nurses are scratching their heads and wondering, after all that the profession has done to support healthcare, to support us through COVID, and to not be considered a profession is a real blow to all of us.
And beyond the perceived insult, they fear the borrowing limit will impact the number of people willing to enter the nursing profession.
The system will crumble if you don't have enough nurses to either teach the next generation or to support the access to care issues that we do currently have in this country.
A Department of Education spokesperson tells WFAA that when it comes to federally backed loans, nursing has never been included as a professional degree, that nurses can still take out loans to the $100,000 limit, and that as the student loan portfolio nears $1.7 trillion, these loan caps are common sense and place downward pressure on the cost of tuition across the country.
See, so what they're accusing Trump of is removing nursing from being considered a professional degree. The truth is it was never there because it's not a professional degree. But everybody, it's just a semantics game where you can try to just make it seem like Trump's this horrible person. Nobody gives a shit anymore. We're past that. Remember, the people that are talking about how much they hate Trump, they all took this injection. A lot of these arguments they're already over. We're kind of just really still having them just for fun. But people like me, I don't argue with these people no more because I'm watching them all have surgery so that they can have organs removed. My friends are in their 20s and 30s. One of them just got a pacemaker put in last week. A friend of mine back in Buffalo. And he told me that, Rico, you told me don't do it, but I wanted to keep this job. And I was like, shit, you already lost that job now, didn't you? He was like, yeah, because of my injury, because of my medical condition, I lost the job anyway. I'm like, so wait a minute. You did all that just to keep a job for another 12 months, 13 months, and now they canned you anyway because you're sick and your insurance is not going to cover it because if you complied, that's what they consider a pre-existing condition. You're screwed because you did it to yourself. You had a choice. You could have said no. I said no. We all had a choice. Life's about choices. But yeah, Trump didn't remove this. This was never there because this is all a joke to begin with. All of it.
Meanwhile, nursing associations are asking people to sign an online petition.
But this is the time where we need everyone to speak up with the voice to let people know that this is we're not going to stand for this and that we need this to change.
If not, the proposed changes take effect in July.
Oh, you won't stand for this, but you stood for the board of directors of your hospital giving you orders that if you would have just thought about them for about 5 seconds, you would have realized they were telling you to euthanize your not your clients, I guess not your residents, your patients. They were requesting for you to, they were roundabout giving you instructions on how to euthanize these people and write it off as a COVID-related death. And then you could raise the numbers, make it seem like there's actually a pandemic, and then they cremate the people before the autopsy. If I'm describing what happened to one of your relatives, you failed your relative. I remember it happened to my banker, this 26-year-old gay black dude. I go to the bank. I just moved to Arizona. I go to the bank. Gay black dude's there. I talk to him. I come back a week later because I wanted to do some paperwork, and he's a notary. And I bring up his name, and like the guy starts like weeping. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? What happened? Car accident or something? No, him being gay, he had a panic attack by watching all the COVID numbers on the news. They kept scaring him. They kept changing the numbers, going higher and higher, and he had a panic attack. He had a high heart rate, and he was panicking. And he goes into the hospital. He's there for 30 minutes, and some lady brings him a piece of paper saying, hey, you need to sign this or you'll be dead by Wednesday. We got to get you on a ventilator quick. Instead of being dead by Wednesday, he was dead by that Friday. Did his family go to that hospital and burn it down? Did his mama and all his family, did they go do any of the ghetto shit they do? When you see them on body cams mad when they're being kicked out of a Walmart for shoplifting? No, there was no vengeance. Nobody did anything. And he's just a memory. You would go to that. That's why they would tell you, no matter what happens, do not go to that hospital because you're not going to make it out. They needed those numbers to push up this illusion. And now it's all out. Like now they'll tell you there was no pandemic. I told everybody that years ago. I said, pandemic where? Where? I've been laughing about it for years, but I fought with nurses and doctors and faux professionals. That's why I said when it comes to this topic, I'm one of the leading minds on this entire subject. I can tell you everything about it. I studied it. I was obsessed with it. Still obsessed with it. And I argued with these people, and I would destroy them on Clubhouse, on Instagram. I would be invited to speaking engagements and debate people. And all these people were doing at the end of the day, it was me trying to save you and these people trying to get you to commit suicide. And I am trying to debate with them to keep you from killing yourself, not because I necessarily like you. I don't know you. It's just that I like to party and go out and have a good time. And you making idiotic decisions is what led to the lockdown. And then I couldn't go out and have a good time anymore. So I need you guys to stay alive so I can keep things as normal as possible so I can enjoy myself. But when you guys start doing all this idiotic, dumb shit and falling for every scam known to man, then it affects my bottom line. You know, it's I can't do what I want if you're not even there anymore. So I need you guys to keep your wits, tune in, share this video, subscribe. I know people come and they watch the video and then they keep going. Please like the video, share it if you can, leave a comment. It helps boost me in the algorithm. This is a video people need to hear. People are asking me, oh, so what do you think about nurses? Well, now you know what I think about nurses. And I have all the evidence in the world to show you. I have years and years of data now that I don't have to talk to you, but I can literally show you. We're talking about it right now. And I'm happy as hell to have these debates and these conversations with anybody who's willing to talk. I want to hear what you have to say. A lot of the people I used to argue with, they all come back and apologize to me, and a lot of them have already passed away. I'm watching them die on Facebook. See, Facebook is really just it should be an obituary book, because that's how you know when people died. On Facebook, when they stop posting and then their friends go to their page and start, you know, oh man, I'm sorry to hear. And then you can see who's really gone. You don't get that from Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. That's Facebook. Facebook is an obituary. That's why I can tell you that the black population is down 3%, and they're sterile now, so there's no reproduction. There's no bunch of new black babies everywhere. That whole community is being it'll be 3% instead of 13 before this is done. They're going to need reservations to preserve what's left of black culture and ebonics or whatever else you guys want to sell. You know, Jordans are already collectibles. They're going to be more valuable now. CDs. I tell people, collect all your black memorabilia, gold chains, Kangos, anything from, you know, that shows black culture. Like, just collect the memorabilia, package it up. It's going to be worth something in 10 years because those people will be gone, unfortunately. But that was the whole purpose of these experiments. That's what they hired Epstein for. That's what all these scientists were. That's what they were all brought together to do. And they had some success. The only part they failed on, the one thing they failed on was this. For it to work properly, you must allow cloud seeding to block out the sun. Natural sunlight not just slows down, but it stops all the progress of the injection. So they're cloud seeding in different parts of the world because they're trying to reduce their populations of certain people. California was very successful, but now it's been gloomy for years. Everyone's not. But in other states, they blocked it. Tennessee blocked it. Texas, Florida. No more cloud seeding. So without the sun being covered, the injection doesn't work. Or at least doesn't work as fast. So, but if you're dark enough, then you're already going to have a vitamin D deficiency anyway. So you're not going to absorb that sun. So you're screwed either way. But like I said, the science is relatively simple. It just sounds complicated. But I talk about it in all my other videos. So we can talk about it some more now openly on YouTube, which is amazing. So do me a favor, share the video, like it. I'll put it into the algorithm. I have a couple other topics we're going to talk about tonight, but I just wanted to get this out there. Don't trust these nurses. They don't like you the way you think they do. Keeping you alive is not their priority, which is why medical malpractice is the #3 leading cause of death in the country. Go ahead and look it up if you want to. Right-wing Rico, the single boyfriend. I'll see you guys again shortly. And remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.